So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this session. Thanks for coming to the Infosys Lounge. My name is Anand Swaminathan. I work for Infosys. In the form of introduction, Infosys is a systems integrator, a global organization with 350,000 people working across 50 plus countries in the world. And our vision is to bring technology to amplify human potential. It's very fitting that in the context of our vision, the work that we are doing with Street Child over the last 3 years in particular has helped us to actually provide for Street Child a digital presence. And we brought technology to help Street Child get a better outreach. But it was possible because one of our clients, Liberty Global, actually made this introduction between Infosys and Street Child. So Liberty Global, as you might know, is a leading provider of connectivity and technology solutions to the world. So it's a very nice tripartite relationship that has come to be. And for those of you who may not know Street Child, the thing that compelled us to actually invest more is, in their simple mission to put every child, or provide every child a safe learning environment. And particularly the fact that they're operating in underprivileged countries where there is a gap between aid and the need. So we are very excited to have here Tom, the CEO of Street Child, the co-founder of Street Child, as well as Lucinda, who is a co-founder of Street Child and also runs their policy. So I'm going to leave it to them to actually drive this discussion and make this an interactive discussion, with the theme being, out of the many opportunities out there, how can we get the best yield for every dollar that is being invested? So thank you again very much for being here. Over to you, Lucinda.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity, for your fantastic partnership. I can't believe how exciting it is to see our film and our branding up, everyone passing by. So thank you and all of Infosys for your fantastic support, and of course to Liberty Global for your introduction and your continued support. Before I start, I just run through how we're going to do this. So I'll just give you a very brief introduction about Street Child and what we're talking about today. I'll ask you all to just give a very brief introduction of yourselves and why you're here, what brought you here to join the table today, and then I'll pass to His Excellency Dr. Tariq Al-Ghug to give some opening remarks, then to Tom to give some follow-up remarks from Street Child, and then we'll open the conversation. So we're discussing how you can best invest $1 to get the greatest return. And of course, for Street Child, an education SDG for focused charity, we would say that investing it in education is the very best you can do, because you're investing now for outcomes in the future. And for Street Child, we focus our aims, our efforts on the children where that's least likely to be true. The most marginalised children who are not currently receiving any education at all. 1 in 10 children in the world aren't going to school. 1 in 4 children in the world, 1 in 4 children in the world who are at school are learning nothing. And we think that is not right. And so this is a fantastic opportunity for us to amplify that cause at Davos, and we'll come to what our calls to action are in the future. But I would encourage one of those to be that next year at Davos we put education right at the forefront of the conversations, because in terms of an economic perspective, you get a great investment by investing in education. So if I can just, I think probably best to pass the microphone. If I pass the microphone around, or you've got some, to capture the sound properly, we will need to speak into it. But if everyone can just give a very brief introduction, and then I'll pass to Dr. Tariq. Thank you.
Thank you. David Connolly from 100. I'll allow Lasse, my colleague, to introduce our organisation. I've joined the organisation recently from the World Economic Forum, where I worked in the past, and worked closely on our future skills work at the forum as well. So familiar with the work Infosys are doing, and Tarek and others around this table. Great to see you all.
Ann Kennedy, Masters Fund. I am here because A, I believe in education, and secondly, we believe firmly in Masters Fund that the word, you used the word invest, we believe in investing with private money will lead you greater results because it will be able to produce profits that then can be recycled into more investment.
Tariq Al-Gurg, I'm with Dubai Cares, and we are a global philanthropic organization based in Dubai, but we work on global education issues, SDG 4 and all its components. Our definition of developing countries are middle income and below, and we're open to all kinds of children, ethnic groups, religion, and minorities as well. So we work with partners, with the private sector, with governments, with the UN, to see how we can provide best solutions to eliminate the barriers that causes children not to attend school or attend school without getting proper learning.
Great. And I'm Donna Kudimovska with the Jacobs Foundation. We're a global philanthropy as well, based in Zurich, our home country. So easy trip for a day to Davos. Makes it easier for us. We work in child learning and development, have a legacy of 30 years of investment in research in the kind of breakthroughs about how children learn. And now, over the last 2 years, with a new strategy 2030, we're looking to put that science into practice, both at the school level and at the systemic level, to embed evidence into decision-making at the policy and practice levels. In terms of context, we work in high-income context here in Switzerland, but also in middle and low-income context in Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Colombia. And we primarily work with governments on systemic education system reforms, but also on innovative financing mechanisms, such as with SDC, on impact-linked finance, results-based finance, and so forth. So we're straddle the full kind of spectrum of finance and the full spectrum kind of resource environments. So excited to be here, and thank you for inviting us. We're good friends to the host, the Street Child.
Thank you, Donika. Alexandre Cabaret, I work with DevX, which is a global media platform for global development. We cover development finance and all of the SDGs really on a daily basis. And audience is primarily made of professionals working in that space, about 1 million people working across government, international organizations, social enterprises, NGOs, foundations, and the likes. So, and I'm also on the board of Street Child, so I'm here.
Already introduced myself, Anand Swaminathan. Very excited to host all of you here. Looking forward to this discussion.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Alicia Rose. I am the Deputy CEO for US Deloitte. Deloitte is a professional consulting and audit firm, and many of you may be familiar with that. But one of our purposes is to really make an impact that matters for our clients, our people, and communities. And at the global level, we have two commitments, one called World Climate and one called World Class. And World Class is about impacting 100 million lives through education and workforce development. So I was very excited to see this conversation and join this esteemed group of individuals to learn a bit more.
Hi, my name is Eke Vermeer. I work for Liberty Global, and I also chair the European Cable, the WEF23 Women in Cable Technology. And this year we organized together with Deloitte a gala in the Netherlands to raise money, and been very involved with Street Child, and this cause is very close to my heart. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Hello, I'm Shariha Khalid. I am here on the invitation of Dr. Tariq Al-Gurg. We work together in the SDG Global Councils at the UAE's Prime Minister's Office initiative. I sit on the Finance Advisory Board. But I am also founding partner of Mission & Co, an investment and impact advisory firm. And separately, I run also a program through my non-profit in Malaysia and Southeast Asia, working with children and young people. And in fact, Design for Change, which is 100 awardees, is one of the programs that we support. So I'm absolutely invested in learning for children and empowering the next generation, and I believe very much that more of these sorts of fora is really important, bringing people from different sectors together and I'm here to learn. Would love to learn more about the work of Street Child, and contribute however I can. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lasse Leponiemi. I'm the co-founder of 100, Finnish mission-driven organization. We focus on education change. We identify, amplify, and implement education innovations from and in different contexts. We have a database of 3,500 education innovations today. Out of those, 350 have been validated, and we believe that those provide good impact and scale for different contexts around the world. We have been very privileged to work with the Jacobs Foundation. Together we are planning to further, push the envelope even further with the implementation, especially in the middle and low income setting of these solutions and practices, but then also been collaborating as a knowledge partner with the Street Child, who have been helping us to identify solution practices from the most vulnerable contexts. So, and Design for Change is one of our Hall of Fame innovations. So very happy to be here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Enrique Rodriguez. I'm the CTO for Liberty Global, and we're very fortunate to have a relationship with Street Child. I'll make the story very short, but we used to have our own organization, which was founded by one of our executive members back 14 years ago. And in 2019, we realized that the best way to scale this is to actually have people that really know what they're doing. And it seems pretty obvious. It took us a little while, but of course, we found a partnership with Street Child as the best mechanism to get into that scaling. Personally, it seems like most everybody here spends most of their time on education, which is fantastic. I'm just lucky enough to be here today, and I have a personal passion specifically for technical education. I'm a geek at the heart, and I like to spread that geekiness around. So.
Hello, Karine de Meijer from the Netherlands. I'm founder and CEO of Women of the World. It's a platform for female entrepreneurs. I try to make them think bigger than they think they are. I'm here on invitation of Deloitte. Melissa Rucksack, she invited me already, I think 3 years ago in 2020 also. They had a similar event. Unfortunately, I saw the pandemic coming, and so I didn't come here. And I think I was right in that sense. Anyway, education has always been my passion. I was very fortunate enough to be able to go and study in the States at age 18, and that really transformed my life. I've actually been fundraising for Room to Read, all those kinds, because I always realized when you educate a girl, you really educate a whole generation. I just came running from the Women's Davos Agenda event, and there was a whole panel with only Indian ladies, and it's just incredible if you hear some of the stories that these women have had. Like some really were born in very, impoverished areas, and education changed their lives and for their families and everything. And so there you actually see it happening. With Women of the World, I always try to look for a global NGO that I can maybe support. And I'm hoping that this might be Street Child this year. So thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Most of you know me, but not all. So my name is Tom Dannett, and with Lucinda, who, for disclosure, is my wife, we co-founded Street Child, nearly 15 years ago. And look, I'll have a chance to speak at greater length shortly, so I'll do that. But just one observation: people are walking past here and thinking, and they're looking in. They're thinking, what is this busy event? Like, this is a Thursday afternoon at Davos. Like, Davos fatigue is setting in. Yet this room is this is a standing room event. So I think this is a cool discussion, and of course, massive thanks to Anand and Liberty for this opportunity. We're privileged, and listen.
Thank you. I've got a microphone here as well, so I might pass that down. So I'm going to pass now to His Excellency Dr. Tariq Al-Gerg to make some opening remarks. But before I do, I just wanted to thank him because he very generously hosted a fantastic conference in Dubai just over a year ago called Rewired, focused on education and how we have to take action to transform the system. And I'm sure he'll talk to you about it more, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank him publicly for really fantastic opportunity.
Thank you very much. And I think it's good afternoon, right? Not morning anymore. The schedules. So good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, definitely. I'm not putting that $1 in Bitcoin. Definitely, 100%. So, and definitely, if the question is, where should that $1 be invested in? You see, we should not think of a demography of business that where we should invest. I think the investment should always be towards human development. And how we see it, and how I personally see human development evolving, is if education is at the core of human development. We as human beings, I always say this to my team, we live for two purposes as human beings. We live to evolve as human beings from where we were since beginning of time until today, and we have evolved, and thanks to education for the last 120 years, it did its job, and we are where we are today. We go to the moon, and we go to Mars, and we travel across the world thanks to education that has been instilled 120 years ago on a system that worked for that time and made us who we are today. But definitely, it's education that will make us also have the innovations and the skilling that we need to earn income. So as we evolve as human beings, the second important point is survival. No money, no survival. We all are living to earn income. So that $1, I would definitely invest it in education. That's my point. But not the education we have today. You see, we've been 15 years. We spoke about it. We've been piloting and innovating new models based on existing evidence. And we're in 60 countries. We have over 250 programs into those. We have over 108 research papers. We have on each program, in each thematic, in each country, we have a final evaluation, 60 countries, 21 million children we're serving, and we have over 150 global partners. It comes to one point, which COVID actually showed us that it's very... I hope it's not Ukraine or something. So it's Greta. Ah. Okay. Let her come in here. Well, I'm going to talk about climate. Well, luckily I'm leaving 9 o'clock. So it comes to one question is, are the systems that we have today in our education systems are the right systems, but we need to tweak it to make it adaptable to the current space that we're sitting on and the future and on all the crises that are going to come? You see, COVID showed us that the system is broken, first of all. It's not integrated with connectivity. It's not integrated with technology. And these are two important points for our next generation of human development. If we're talking about climate issues, yeah, how can you monitor climate without technology on what's happening in the world? So I believe technology will play a big role in climate, and so does the climate people and activists. But I also believe that technology will play a very big role in education. Education is important because it gives better health, better income to students who finish the system. But what about children who were not privileged enough to get enrolled into schools? What about the youth of today who never went to school? Do we have a solution for them? And this is a very big portion of people who don't have jobs. Out of school children who still have a chance, we can take them back, and youth of today that has never been in a system. Can we have a system, an education system, that can look into those kind of people? And can we have a system that can we take the child of today and give them the right skills and values and give them the knowledge and the actual practical experience? If you're going to teach them on climate, then later on when they're in senior school, let them engage in climate issues. Give them case studies. Take them on voyages where climate has played a role in destroying that environment. So I believe with systems change and transforming education on what it is today, putting that $1 in the transformation into system change is the way forward for human development. Now, the UN Secretary General launched the Transforming Education Summit last September at UNGA. It was, and I'm part of it, I'm part of the partnership, and the Rewired Summit is a partner summit to the TESS itself. But to me, that's a member state led. The content is led by member states as well, regardless of the negotiations. And everyone else, which is us, we're left behind. We're left out. People like me and probably 100 and Jacobs, we're fortunate enough to be connected with the system, the UN system, but 99.9% of the others are not connected, so they don't have a seat to present solutions and how we can integrate a 21st century solution towards system change. And to work towards that system change, we will never be able to do it without having a mechanism that will accept proposals from countries, work with the right advisors, call them the usual suspect, the biggest education decision makers, such as the multilaterals, the UN system, the World Bank, and academia, to start transforming these education systems. And once we realize what is their vision and what is the future human they want in 20 years based on their vision, then let's work backwards on what skills we need to instill into our children today. What values? Values could be listening, it could be religion, it could be being humble. And a lot of these things are taken out from the education system. Again, I'm focusing on developing countries, not developed nations, probably some emerging markets, but I'm talking middle income and below. And without having that transformation and putting into it the opportunities for those children and youth who never got a chance to be enrolled into a job or getting any income through their vocation or their skills, we won't be able to achieve it. And one thing we're doing with the World Economic Forum, although we are a global philanthropic organization in education, now we're embarking upon transforming education in developing countries. So that's a bigger task with the UN Secretary General's office and UNESCO as the secretariat. But at the same time, if we are not able to provide the mechanisms, the ecosystems, the specialized accreditation for certain skills to be trained and accredited and upskilling that person or reskilling to a new job, then we won't be able to move. I mean, the youth, forget the youth of today, the children of today, my daughters, who are between, I have 4, so the eldest 3 are almost grown up. So from 11 to 15, those 3 girls, I mean, they don't want to go to school. I was born in 74. I didn't want to go to school. So you see, the system was broken back then. I hated school. I hated reading. I hated school. And probably God gave me this job to fix the issue. So that's what Dr. Shireen always tells me. She goes, God put you in that seat because you hated education. We are not providing them on 21st century solutions for those children. If it's gadgets, if it's technology they like, and that's what they do once they finish school, then take that gadget, put it in the curriculum, and let's gamify a few courses. We can easily gamify things. Those are children. Give them any game, they'll play it. If you are able to take Tetris and convert it into an education solution, then they will play that education solution kind of a Tetris. So I want to conclude by saying that tonight, and whether you want to tweet about it or not, it's up to you, no embargo, but it's happening in the next 3 hours. So I'm signing with the UAE government, as Dubai Cares, with the COP28 presidency. Dubai Cares has been selected for the first time ever as an education partner to any of the COPs. So there was no agenda on education in any of the COPs. This will be the first COP to have an agenda on education, and we will have a full day on education. There was never a full day. We're going to host another Rewired Summit, and it will be focused on climate and education, green skills, and green jobs towards green economies. So that's a full day education day, and I will never allow them to give me day 12 or 13. It's going to be on day 3 and 4. So we can get the UN Secretary General, we can keep the heads of state one more night to attend this big gathering and to put education into the agenda of climate. And hopefully with this, we can get the climate agenda embedded to everything that we're doing in education in terms of systems and transformation. And hopefully in 1 week, we'll come out with a big press release from Dubai Cares on everything we are going to do there. And I invite you all, if any topic you have with regards to education, youth, skilling, reskilling, green jobs, green economies, climate and education, and any of the thematic days, not only education, please come to us and we will work from now to give you that slot, that high-level panel, that workshop, that discussion that you want. I'll stop here.
Yeah. Derek, thank you so much. It was working. Okay. I knew that I shouldn't have. Yeah, that's working better. Let's say
Sounds better.
That's working better. Yeah, I knew it was a risk going after you because I have no big announcements. But I think. Yeah, in some ways, what I'm going to use this short space to do is just to lay out the basics of Street Child and our approach. And I really hope you see the compliment because, yeah, as Tarek said, he and Dubai Cares are plugged into all of the top structures, working at a systems level. I talk a lot about ecosystem and understanding the ecosystem, and then working at where is your space in the ecosystem. Street Child's our core competency at this point is to be a fantastic implementer. And yeah, as we implement, we learn, and we are in our new strategy placing greater emphasis on sharing our learning. But at the heart of Street Child, like, we're doers. And what do we do, and who do we do it for? I'll take those in reverse order. As Lucinda said, what do we do it for? We work for really two categories of children. Children who are out of school, in particular children who've never been to school and have never achieved basic numeracy and literacy. And then we work for children who are in school, but actually that school is no more than an oversized crash. They're learning nothing. That's not useless. There are loads of socioeconomic benefits to being in school, but predominantly a school's job is to educate. And tragically for hundreds of millions of children, that's not the case. These children are disproportionately concentrated in the world's very poorest countries, and in the world's the toughest and poorest parts of those countries, the most disaster-affected parts. And that is where you'll find Street Child, and that's where you'll find Street Child's partners. Our USP, let's say two things. I'll start with this piece, is that we do pretty much everything through local organizations. We are a champion of local organizations, and some of them are titchy-wee, like 5, 10 ultra committed, enthusiastic community people, through to some organizations which are actually larger than we are. They might just be working in the one country or the one province, but they've got a turnover of 8 figures. Unlike Street Child working in 20 countries. But we have a massive belief in the power of local organizations who understand their contexts, who can work at cost points that as an international organization we never could. And my conception is that we find those organizations. Street Child's core expertise is the ability to find those organizations and establish smart partnerships with those organizations. Those organizations do not have the opportunity to come to Davos easily, to form partnerships with the likes of Liberty Global, Dubai Cares, Infosys, the UN agencies, or whatever. We do. We have that privilege. And so our conception of our space is a smart middle layer between the big wheels and then those on the ground players, and really bringing them into the picture.
I believe, Tom, you also build their capacities on how to run their CSOs and
100%. So we're working with these organizations to deliver programs together, but then also investing in them in and of their own right. And nothing gives my colleagues and I greater pleasure when we see these organizations go on and achieve massive things with or without Street Child subsequently down the path. I'm going to share my main reflection of Davos, and again, this wasn't scripted, but it just goes so nicely from what Tariq was saying. I've been super disappointed by and some of you who heard me speak in the last couple of days will have heard me share this reflection already, super disappointed by the role of education in Davos, because education is the ultimate investment. This is the World Economic Forum. A child who cannot read, write, add up or take away has no prospect of participating in any meaningful way in the modern economy. They can't support their own country's economy, and tragically, the other most likely to get caught up in bad stuff or drag countries backwards. But they're the most hidden voices, because they're They're from, as we say, the least economically developed countries, which don't have Zurich doesn't work there, City doesn't work there, because there isn't an economic case. And then when CSR discussion becomes very dominated by, I need to support organizations from the communities where my business has a footprint. But most big businesses that come to Davos do not have footprints in the world's poorest countries, where the greatest level of human need is. And so we need to be a bit visionary about this. We need to be more joined up and intentional as a sector. And I've come away sort of from Davos, and we're towards the end now, super motivated to really try and call together, and we've done some of these discussions already, everyone who's on the same page here, and think about how next year can we really present a strong, unified front and make that a case. So I've had a wild chat now, and I'll pass. My wife really wants me to stop. But you've got a flavour of Street Child and a flavour of what I'm thinking about. And I will just say again, it's such a pleasure and privilege to have you here. So thank you so much. I look forward to the rest of the conversation.
Thank you, Tom. So I would like to ask Danica in a moment just to talk about, Tom mentioned sharing and learning, and I think that's a big ethos in the Jacobs Foundation, so I'd love for you to share a little bit about that to everybody. And then I'd like to pass to Enrique, just because tech has come up and you've talked about your passion for it, but for Street Child, we're dealing with the most marginalised populations in the world, where tech it's hardest to reach, connectivity is an issue, we're dealing with budgets that are as tight as possible. So if you could try and talk to us about how we could try and collaborate on this huge issue. Africa is going to have the largest workforce population in the world in the coming years, and we need to equip the students with the skills that they need. So, Danica, if I can pass to you first, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Maybe just to piggyback very quickly on what's been said already, I think, congratulations on the COP event. Yes, we put ourselves in that camp to our field overall, that we managed to get that day a COP. I think if we can do the same next year for this right here somewhere down the street, that would be fantastic. So we're very much on board with that. I think from our perspective, so like I mentioned before, we're really investing in the research and evidence side of how can we make the case to both governments, and the private sector too, of where we should be investing in education. Where should that dollar go? We all agree that's the best investment you can make, but oftentimes we get the question of, but then where? Like, in which of these things should we be putting our money? That's why we're supporting 100 to help us validate some of these innovative models and help us create a bit more of a knowledge base for which of these things should we be looking at as a field, as a community. So two things maybe to share then. One on the kind of knowledge side of things, and one of the things that we're most excited about is how to build, kind of identify innovative ways of delivering education and create holistic learning for kids at all levels, and then understand what works for which environments too. So try to really become a little bit more intentional about the evidence and the research that organizations need to become learning organizations themselves. And that's a little bit of the pushback too when we talk to innovative models that are trying to scale. Very often we find that they don't have the capacity to actually build their research and evidence team because they need so many other things and they're investing in so much other capacity. So really looking at ways of helping them better understand a model, what works in different environments, so that we collectively as a field can become a little bit more evidence-based on which organizations can scale for which kinds of children. So Street Child is focusing on the two types of populations that you talked about, Tom. I mean, articulating what specifically works there. What are those active ingredients? How can we scale them? How can we create more visibility for those? So we're really excited about that, and we hope that that is some of what we can come into these conversations with. Yes, the urgency around education, but then also the how we do it, and then the what we fund in terms of innovative ideas, models that then have more evidence behind them. So that's one. And then the second bit that we're excited about too is this community coming together as a learning community, which frankly has been a much more fragmented community than some of the climate. You know, you have Greta, and we don't have that in education, and I'm not sure if we should have one. But point being that I think there is more of a rallying cry and more of a connected community that is making a good case, and totally agree with that. And that should, you know, it's an important, massively important topic. We don't have that in education, and we discussed this at TESS. How even at TESS we lost half of the, you know, heads of states and for other reasons. But anyway, there was not a lot of momentum there. There was not a rallying cry.
It was not technical. It was because of funeral.
It wasn't TESS. It wasn't right. We had another. But in any case, it didn't make the news. It wasn't something that was elevated to at the level of urgency that needs to be. So how can we bring a learning community around this that creates that momentum, but it's also something that mainstreams what works in our own agendas and makes the case to the likes of Davos and to the likes of the world leaders that are part of TESS as well. So thank you for giving me the chance to reflect.
Thank you very much. As I was listening, I guess I'll change a little bit what I'll talk about. It reminded me a little bit of not quite an anecdote, something I lived personally 25 years ago. Been always in the tech industry, and we were out looking for both funding and help from a big tech company in the U.S. So we did the usual pilgrimage to the U.S. West Coast, go meet with a celebrity CFO, all excited. I put on my best shirt, and we got the money. Okay, we got the money right away. Actually, we got every penny that we asked for, and in like 3 minutes. Okay, and it was obvious that the celebrity CFO had a lot more money to give than attention. And really no connection to what we were doing. Okay, we took the money, of course, and we tried to do what we could do with it. And I think that really shaped a lot how I think about nonprofit, how I think about helping, because I see it over and over and over. It's a lot easier, I hate to say it, to actually fundraise than to figure out what to do with the money. And what to do with the money in an effective way. So one of the things that I'm very interested on intersection between nonprofit and technology is I am a core believer that technology can help us get more impact out of those dollars that you all work so hard to go and get. So as an example, working with Marinda at Street Child, she put together this initiative which is called Tech Sprint, and basically try to bring together best-in-class technology companies like Infosys, some of your competitors like Entity Data, some of your co-clients like Google. I don't remember all the people that were there, but the key theme was to try to identify ways in which these companies could put their IQ and their technology to better work, helping you all with the great cause that you have around education. So my personal interest is to find that intersection where dollars meet reality, and how can we get technology to make that intersection even more effective.
So Enrique, what exactly? You're a technology company, or you invest in edtech?
So we are an American holding company of European telecommunication companies. So for example, Telenet in Belgium we're the majority owner of that. Virgin Media O2 in the UK, we're 50%.
So you're an investment company and you invest into telecoms.
Exactly. Telecom is our core business.
We need them, this guy.
Yeah, telecom is our core business, and we have a long history of telecom around the world. Right now, we're focused in Europe, but in the past, we've been in Africa, we've been in Asia, in many places, and we do have a very active ventures fund. So one of the follow-up conversations that I'll have with Anne is how can we make some of those investments be also that intersection between returns and do well in the world as well.
And Shariha as well.
I
have to be involved.
Fantastic. Looking forward to the conversation as well.
I don't want to take anyone's space, but there's a huge need, Enrique, in the education sector for the new legacy, for the transformation to happen. Connectivity is a main issue. And they call it digital. What we're seeking is digital learning. And the key for digital learning, forget the gadgets and the technology and the iPads, we can get cheap ones, is the connectivity. Can we get meaningful connectivity in rural area? That's the most important thing.
Yeah, so you'll have a hard time taking the microphone away from me, because we have also another initiative that we're discussing with Infosys exactly on that. How do we take, a large-scale platform for education and really use it in places where it was not originally designed for, but it can have significant help. And I think that's to me, the part of the secret sauce we haven't quite tapped into. Every one of these companies, I have the same issue in our corporate world. We have employees, team members that have fantastic capabilities. They have the best intentions in the world, but they don't know how to focus those into a nonprofit. I think, the challenge that would give you as a community is help us find a better way to connect those two things. Connect our employees' intelligence, okay? Connect our corporate funds into doing something that has the best possible impact. And of course, I agree, education is the best possible impact. And within education, anything that can bring out technology, even more passionate about.
Thank you. Would anyone like to put their hand up to follow
What?
up? Yeah, please.
I wanted to maybe... Tarek's putting me on the spot, but it's okay. I'm loving this conversation so far, because actually, what we're all connected by is this passion to try and make sure that every child has access to learning. But have we as a community truly recognized that access to technology, access to connectivity is actually a basic human need now? It never was classified as that. I invite you to look at the work of the social progress imperative, because that's a term that actually I think also helps guide us towards addressing things that really look at what makes social progress happen. Because ultimately, why do we want kids to be in school? It's to either become job seekers, job creators, or just change makers. You don't have to have a job to create change in the world. And why that? For what reason?
Human development.
Yes, to develop as a human being. But why develop as a human being? Survival, but also to be a productive human being and contribute to society and look after each other and the planet. So I think maybe this is something that we need to just really reinvestigate in responding to what you were saying, Tom, of how education hasn't become an agenda. Maybe because education on its own is not really an agenda that becomes a priority for everybody. But if we then, look at the narrative and say that actually this is really about something else, as you're now, pushing forward with the human development term, one other basic thing of human development is access to health. An unhealthy, hungry child is not going to be a good learner. So how do we connect all of these dots? I'm just really interested to hear from all your work. Just to give an example, in Malaysia as a country, in terms of mobile phone usage and, internet penetration, one of the top in Southeast Asia. But you won't believe this. During the lockdown, when schools were closed, and Malaysia was in lockdown for 2 years, by the way. God knows why. I'm not going to comment. But 44% of children had their learning disrupted. Why? Because in their household, they only had one device, because they simply could not afford it. So, maybe somewhere else we're like, oh yeah, we can just go on and do kind of virtual learning. That's not a given in these contexts. And this is Malaysia. It's actually not even a low-income country. It's a high middle income country or something like that. It's above middle income. So thank you. I just wanted to share that, just some food for thought.
Yeah, maybe I could continue from that one. So then if we take the context to Tanzania, for example, the smartphone penetration is like 20 to 25% in the whole country. So, and then you have the price for the data as well. So that kind of like restricts the opportunities to learn if you have to do it online. But when we have been working with this validated and identified education innovators throughout the last years, we often see big challenges when they are starting to scale up. And when they are starting to scale up, they are small organizations. Like they're the ones like Tom is trying to identify from these different locations that can be supporting on the ground with the actual need that is visible and very much needed today. But they are not interesting for the big economical players because they're too small. We have to be able to bundle those together and make it more interesting and exciting for the general public to be involved. And that's something we see a lot. So when the small, often an NGO innovation is starting to scale up, they run into different kind of resourcing bottlenecks. How do we increase our resourcing? What kind of operational know-how and help and support we can get so that we can make this sustainable? And then how can we reach to a bigger number of the schools? And I think this is exactly the key with the work we are now also doing with the Jacobs Foundation, how we can support that implementation, facilitation, so that we can get the resources that are needed on the ground, but also the know-how and competencies, how these growing organizations can be answering to the bigger need and demand they are seeing around them. And I would be personally very, very happy, like if we would be able to have an education house here next year, to bring a handful of our Hall of Fame innovators from Design for Change to Room to Read, and to explain how they have been doing that and how they have been affecting the society in a positive way. That would be fantastic, so we could give concrete and practical examples.
No, I told her, remind me to speak to them to have a pavilion on education. I'll work on it from now. No. I have to leave, huh? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
How can we reach out to you? Because I already have 3 panels in my
Okay.
head. So
Yeah,
The best is Street Child, but I'll leave a few cards here as well. Okay.
It was a-
Thank you. Thank you.
It was a dangerous
Can I
problem.
pick a few of those?
As many as you want.
To her as well.
I very much like the pavilion from Dubai Cares.
Expo.
I actually took 3 leadership groups.
Oh,
and
nice.
They really liked your pavilion.
Nice.
I never realized what you were all doing. So it
Nice.
was
Thank
really
you.
impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. So you're coming at the next
Oh yeah,
one?
yeah, definitely.
Tarek, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
We'll
you
see you soon. God bless.
Tom, thank you.
What time is it?
Yeah, we'll connect.
Thank you. Let's should we? Yeah.
I think the conversation can roll for those that can stay and those that need to go. And
Yeah.
I think most of us have planned.
Yeah. So we're at time, aren't we? But does everyone have just a couple more minutes to wrap up? And it'd be great to hear from you, Alicia. If you have.
Well, I thought maybe.
Yes, please.
Well, I thought maybe definitely that you should try maybe invite like a Room to Read or something like next year. Like invite all the other NGOs who've actually been preceding you. But also, for example, I was part of the one laptop per child. Unfortunately, that does not really exist anymore. But they did all these tests with these solar paneled little scratch computers, and they would drop them in Ethiopia, like all around the world. And that actually showed that children have this self-learning capability even without teachers. And then they would send a journalist there 2 weeks later, and these children, without even being able to speak language, were actually explaining to journalists how that works. So I think once you are able to actually present, so you need the technology partners, and I think that children have an enormous opportunity. And I totally love what you said about we need a pavilion, because they actually for the first time now have a gender equality pavilion. They never had that. So it's, like slowly all the SDGs are slowly education is one of them. So I think that you should take the lead in that.
Yeah. So I guess that would be our call to action. But can I just pass over to?
Yes.
Yes, please. You might say, what can venture capital and private equity do for education? Well, the short and easy answer is yes, we can fund technical innovative companies, because that's what we do. But there's a much larger answer. For one thing, the gentleman from Finland mentioned scale. And if there's one thing that venture capital-backed companies know how to do, it's scale, because that's what the investors care about. So if we transfer those skills and methods of how to scale a company, I know inside out how you do that to an organization, and I've worked with a lot of nonprofits as well. But there's a larger issue. We talk about education being the core and the fundament of all human development. It's also the core and the fundament, as the delightful young lady, I can't remember anybody's name, I'm sorry, it's been a long conference, said about being productive. Well, I take that one step further. We have to build prosperous economies. And because with prosperous economies, then we have families, children, moms, dads, who can see that their children are educated, that there won't be street children, which is the point, really, ultimately, right? Wouldn't you like to go out of business with no street children? So what we know in private equity and venture capital is that innovation comes from entrepreneurs, and that builds economic engines. And I'll get off my soapbox. Anything I can do to help, I welcome. Just please contact me. I'm on LinkedIn. I think you've got me on a list somewhere. I'm happy to pass out cards. But thank you for letting me be here. This has been absolutely delightful. And it was, Miranda. I sat next to her at the Africa lunch.
Fantastic.
Sorry, just very briefly, maybe 2 quick points which I would like to see when we talk about education, particularly here in Davos, where the education agenda has been voiced and shared. It has been taken hostage a little bit, I think, by this future skills idea, and that we're educating to produce, almost batteries for productivity in the future. And I would put a call out to the private sector in particular here to think a lot further and beyond that. The education sector is well funded at third level because the economic case is there, but we're completely forgetting if you look at where those resource flows are going, primary education, secondary education, it's a much more difficult pitch to make, particularly to the business community. The return will be in 20 years' time. It's maybe an easier case to make for government, but we're also seeing governments increasingly in the developed context reducing their own investments into education, undervaluing perhaps education. You just need to look at the strikes at the moment in the UK. Health workers, teachers, the profession is perhaps not seen in the way it was in the past. So these are challenges in the developing context we're facing, as much as the pressing of experience of those in the least well-off settings. But I would give that as a call of action perhaps to us next year as a collective community as well of education actors, that the message that we should be advancing be one that is more holistic and perhaps less narrow when it comes, rather than producing people with skills, producing perhaps citizens. And you alluded to that, I think, in the comments you're making.
Thank you so much. And I think, holistic is a great point to end on, really, because you need to bring a number of different things together in order to enable a child to go to school. There are a number of factors that are barriers, and you have to address them all. Infosys very kindly invited us to go and share some food and drink and continue this conversation less formally. So if I can invite us to do that now, that would be fantastic. Tom, did you want to say anything final?
Yeah, I just add my thanks to everyone. Education House, SDG 4 House, or some equivalent of next year at Davos. I think we agree we're going to do it. It's just a question of how and who. But that is, isn't it cool to come to a meeting with an outcome? There's something to celebrate. And I don't want to end on a contrary note, but I do just want to sort of because I love the conversation around how tech can change learning trajectories, or actually create learning trajectories for children. But one thing worries me a little, and there are children out there now who can't afford to wait for us to come up with that plan, who can't afford to wait for the cost price of our device. We're talking about ultra low resource communities, but in Liberia, South Sudan, Somalia, Afghanistan, so on and so forth. we do have techniques proven, within Street Child and way beyond, of that can make a difference for children right here, right now. We need to balance the possibility of the future and invest in the possibility of the future with the urgency of now for hundreds of millions of children who, unless they start learning in the next 1 or 2 years, it's going to be tricky for them to catch up again. And so I think we need to be messy about this. We need to kick a ball with both feet. We need to bat and bowl. I know that Anand is definitely into the cricket analogies, and I suspect more of the Infosys crew. And so let's work on the future, and let's also invest in the things that we know work in the here and now. Street Child's got loads of plans. 100 is documenting them. Jacobs is working on the wider piece as well. And that'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.